Welcome back. In our last video, we took a little bit of time and went over the basics of writing HTML. We're now going to go ahead and put those skills to use in actually creating the page structure for our site. And let's go ahead and bring up our finished website right here. And again, you can go to my website and see this. If you have downloaded the exercise files for this project, at this point you're going to want to go ahead and open those up, and you're going to find a folder called Shears Images or Shears Design Images. You're going to want to go ahead and open that folder up, copy the entire contents, and then paste it into the images folder inside of your local site folder. And again, let me go ahead and actually minimize this. And here I am on my desktop. Here's the folder Shears Images that's in the project file. And here is my local root folder that I created. And again, these folders are wherever you've placed them on your computer. But what you're going to do is you're going to open this Shears Images folder. You're going to go ahead and select everything doing Control A or Command A if you're on a Macintosh. Right click and copy all these images. And again, if you're on a Mac, that would be Command click. So you're going to copy these images, and then you're going to go into your local root folder, the folder you're working in, open up images, and paste them inside of here. And I've actually already pasted them in here, but you would simply do right click, paste, and then if it says you want to replace these, you're going to go ahead and say do this for all the conflicts, and then click yes. I'll click that again, and that shouldn't come up for you. But if it does, just go ahead and say yes, and then you'll have all of the images loaded into Dreamweaver that you need for this project. And if I go ahead and bring Dreamweaver back up now, when I go into my images folder, there are all the images that we're going to be using for this project. Now, if you haven't downloaded the image files, you can still do this. Nothing we do in this class is going to require that you have the image folders or you have the exercise files, but it will take you a little bit of work. You're going to have to create a banner image here. And eventually you're going to need 4 of these, but for this video you're only going to need 1. And this banner image can be anything at all. Just go ahead and go to Flickr or go to Google, find an image, and you want to go ahead and edit this image in an image editing program like Fireworks or Windows Paint so that it's 900 pixels wide by 300 pixels high. So again, this banner image is going to be 900 by 300. The second image that you're going to need to create is going to be this logo right up here. And again, this can be whatever you want, but the size is going to be 260 wide by 50 pixels tall. So this logo should be 260 by 50. And then you're going to go ahead and get these 4 social media icons. Now, again, the internet has these all over the place. If you go to smashingmagazine.com and search for social media icons, there are lots of them that are available for download, and you're going to need 4 of them. The size of these images is going to be 32 pixels wide by 32 pixels high. And finally, we need a couple of small sample images here. We need these 2 images here to be 280 by 180. So these 2 images are going to be 280 pixels wide by 180 pixels deep. And eventually you're going to need to modify these a little bit to do the color change. But for right now, you just need 2 images. One that is 280, or both that are 280 by 180. So you've got a banner that's 900 by 300, a logo that's going to be 260 by 50, 4 social media icons that are 32 by 32, and finally 2 small images that are each 280 pixels wide by 180 pixels deep. And again, the exercise files have all these images ready for you to use. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this, and here I am back in my Dreamweaver. I'm going to go to Files, and again, I've added these to my Images folder. If you created them, you'll need to go ahead and save those in your Images folder as well. So I'm going to go ahead now and skip back into our project website that we're actually working on. And again, you can see there are my 4 social media icons. I put them in the icons folder, and there's my banner image. Again, when you do the slider, you're actually going to need 4 images that are the same size, but for this video you're just going to need 1. And then I placed the logo and the other 2 images just inside of the images folder, and I called those Shears logo, that's the logo, and small 5 BW and small 6 BW are the 2 smaller images. And again, the rest of these images go with different videos, and we'll talk about those when we actually get there. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and open up. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and right-click and delete this sample folder. That was one we don't need. That was for the HTML exercise. And I'm going to go ahead and open up this main.html file here. And this is going to be the file that we use to build out the structure for the page. Now, I'm in Design View now. I'm going to go into Code View, and you're going to see that this is completely blank. If you created a file inside of Dreamweaver by right-clicking and doing New File and giving it a name, when you open it up, you're going to see there's some code in here. You're just going to want to delete that all. So you come back here and just have a nice blank HTML file to start with. And I'm going to delete that file because we don't need that anymore. And here we are back inside of our main HTML file. Now, I'm going to go ahead and come back over here to Files, and I'm going to come into my framework, and I'm going to go into the folder called Timothy Framework and into the folder called HTML. And again, I'm just clicking these little plus and minus signs to the left of the folder to see the contents of them. You're going to see a file here called Basic HTML. And I'm going to go ahead and open that up, and what this file contains is all of the basic code that you're going to need to build out your page. So I'm going to go ahead now and go to Edit, select all, and then Edit, Copy. You could also do Control A, Control C, or right click, doesn't matter which one you do. You just need to copy all of this text and then right click and do Paste or Edit Paste to paste that code into your page. Now, what does this give you? We've got some comments up here at the top that I'm just going to go ahead and delete. The first statement that should always be in your HTML file is what's called a doc type statement. And you can see that right here. Don't worry about what that is right now. Just know that you need to put that at the top of your HTML. Now, from our previous videos, you know that we have an opening HTML tag and a closing HTML tag that contains the entire document. We also have, if I scroll down here a little bit, a head section. And the head section goes from here to here. So you can see all the content that I've placed in the head section. And actually, I'm going to double click on the word properties there to minimize that so that I can see a little bit more of the code at one time. So what have we placed in this section? Well, the first thing we've done is I have a couple of script tags here. You won't actually need those for right now. You will need them for later videos, but not for right now. I've also created a couple of links to a couple of style sheets. And again, we don't need that for this video, but we will need them a little bit later. And again, we're going to talk about those later. But for right now, just type them in exactly like you have them right here. Now, you also have some meta tags right here. Meta tags basically give the browser or a search engine some instructions. And again, we're not going to go into detail as far as what each one of these means, but you do need to place this information in here. Just to give you an example, this meta tag named robots tells a search engine to index this page and follow any links that it finds. You've got some keywords here, and you've also got a description. And those should be fairly self-explanatory: description for the page and any keywords for the page. Keywords aren't used by search engines very much now, but the description is. If you think about Google, when you get a search page, you always have the title of the page, and below that it has about a paragraph of text that describes the page. The paragraph of text that describes the page is whatever you place right here. You can see the name here is description. This is for a search engine. And the content of the description tag is going to be whatever you place right here. So for this project, I might type, I may change this description to an interior design firm in Los Angeles, California. So those are your meta tags that you're going to place there. And then finally, you have a title area right here that actually gives your page a title. And the reason why this is important is this is going to be the text, again, that comes up in the search engine up at the very top. So your title and your description are used by search engines. The robots meta tag tells the search engine it's okay to index this page and have it to show up in search results. If you didn't want this to be indexed by a search engine, let's say it contains private information, you would put a no follow link there. At the end of this video, we're going to talk about search engine optimization and setting that up. And we'll talk specifically about these meta tags and titles and how you set those up. If you want to get a preview a little bit ahead of time, you can go to my website and download the SEO or search engine optimization videos. So that's the information that we're placing in the head section. We also have a spot to put our Google Analytics code in, but we're not going to add that right now. Again, we talk about that in the SEO videos. Now we have the opening body tag. And remember, while anything that's inside of the head tags is instructions to the browser, anything that you place inside of the body tag is going to be displayed actually to a visitor. This is where you put the content for your site. Now remember, we divide our content up logically by using the div tag. Again, let's go ahead and look at our sample project site right here. And you can see we've got an area for our logo here in the banner. We've got an area for social media icons, a top navigation section, another banner area, a content area, a right side area, and a footer area. So we're going to have 7 divs on this page. And a div for the logo, a div for the social media, a div for the top nav, a div for this sliding banner, a div for this content area, a div for this news section right here, and finally a div for our footer. And when we go ahead and look at the code that we've added here, you're going to see that a lot of these divs correspond to those different areas. We've got a banner section here. We've got a sub banner, a top nav. We have left nav that we're not going to use, content and right side that we are going to use, and footer. And we're going to go ahead and modify these a little bit to fit our design in just a moment. But I want you to notice that outside of these divs, right up here, there's a div called wrapper. And you're going to see that I open my top div here and close it immediately after. I open my banner div here and close it immediately right here. The wrapper div I haven't closed. It actually closes all the way down here at the bottom. So this wrapper div contains all these other divs. And when you think of a div, just think of it as a container. As a matter of fact, that's what I'm going to call it right now. We've got our wrapper container that contains all of these other containers. The top container, the banner container, so on and so forth. And we close our div right down here. Now, why do we need to do that? Why do we need a container to hold all these other divs? And the answer will be obvious when you look at our completed site. The site doesn't fill up the entire page, does it? The site only takes up a certain amount of the page. And that's what that wrapper div is. The wrapper div is this container area right here. And actually we have a little bit of buffer space on that we're going to talk to later. But the wrapper div, you can see, contains everything and will allow us to center the content on the page as opposed to having it all over to the left. So I always enclose all of my divs inside of a wrapper so I can center them and control the width of it. So that's what's going on with our wrapper div. Now again, coming down here and looking at our site, we do need a div to hold this logo right here. We also need a div to hold this social media icons. So that's going to be the first two. Now, the top here, I'm actually going to change the word top to the word logo. And I could call this anything I want. I could call it company logo. I could call it Timothy if I wanted to. You can name your divs whatever you want, or you can ID your tags, your divs as whatever you want. But it makes sense to make them make sense. So I'm going to go ahead and just call that logo. And banner, I'm going to go ahead and change that to social media icons. You can use multiple words, but no spaces. So if you're going to use multiple words in an ID, separate them with dashes or underscores. So now I have a div to put my logo in, and I have a div to put my social media icons in. And again, let's go ahead and bring up our completed site. Now we have our top nav. And actually, our top nav actually is coming after our sub banner. So I'm going to go ahead and change that to top nav right there. And I'm going to go ahead and change this to sub. Actually, I'm just going to call it banner because we called the other one logo. Now, we don't have, coming down a little bit further, after the banner, we don't have any left-hand navigation over here. All we have is content and the right side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to completely delete this left nav div there. So now I have content, I have right side, and I have footer, which actually completes the structure for my page. So I now have a container for every discrete area of content on my page. Now that we have the containers, we can begin to add content. Now think back to the HTML video that we just did. If we want to put a logo in here, we're going to use the image tag. So I'm going to click in between the opening and closing div tags, and I'm going to start an image tag. And again, the first attribute I'm going to use is source. And using Dreamweaver, I did that a little quick. Let me go ahead and delete that. I'm going to go ahead and type src, and you're going to see that it highlighted the tag name for me right there. If I press enter, it's going to complete that by putting an equal sign and the double quotes, and give me the opportunity to use the file browser to go find my logo. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter here, and that says go ahead and bring up the select file dialog box. I'm here in CSS framework because that's where I last was. If I click cancel here and we look on our files panel, I'm still over here in this other site. So what I want to do is I'm going to click that drop down and go into my Shears design project. And now when I go ahead and do this and do browse, you're going to see that we are in the Shears Design folder. So you always want to make sure you go, if you go to another folder like the framework folder, that you always go back to your home page folder before you do anything else. And again, let me do that. We're going to be doing this a lot. So let me go ahead and show you how I work that out. I type the tag name here, a space, and I began to type SRC. When it highlights the attribute name, you can press enter and it will put the rest of the attribute in and bring up this browse box. If I press enter again, it brings up the select file dialog box. So now I'm in Shears Design, my project home folder. I'm going to go into the images folder, and I called that Shears logo. So I'm just going to go ahead and scroll down, and whatever you called yours, you just want to find that and click on, or double click on it. And that put the path to our logo into the source attribute. I'm then going to go ahead and do a space and a slash and a closing bracket. And I'm going to go ahead and save this. And now I'm going to go ahead and you can see that logo is now appearing on my page. I'm going to come back in here to code, and I'm going to come into the social media icons area. Now, whenever you have a list of items or a series of items, especially when they compose a menu of some kind, you're always going to place those menu items in an unordered list. You're always going to place them in an unordered list. That way you can easily format them with CSS and get the appearance that you want. Unless you do that, you won't be able to do things like this navigation bar right up here at the top. So always place your menus, or anytime you have a list of things, whether it's a horizontal or vertical list, always place those in unordered list. I'll minimize that and come back in here. And remember, we began unordered lists by doing an opening UL tag and then closing the UL tag. So I've said there's an unordered list in this area. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to create list items for the individual social media icons. One for Facebook, one for RSS, one for Twitter, and one for YouTube. So I'm going to go ahead and open an LI tag, opening bracket LI, and now what I want to go ahead and do is put that image in there. And you're going to see it's going to follow the same format as this. So I'm going to click after that LI, I'm going to do bracket IMG, the source attribute, press enter once it's highlighted. That gives me the browse option. Hit enter again and it brings me up to the file selector. And again, this works just like any open dialog box. And there's the icons folder that I put my social media icons in. And you can see there's lots of images that go into building this website. So these folders are very handy for organizing things. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on icons here. There's my Facebook icon, and I'll double click on it. And you'll see it put the path to that image in there. Then I'm going to go ahead and do the closing slash and a closing bracket. Now, a quick way to duplicate this is going to be to do this. I've got one here. I'm going to highlight it, copy it by doing Control C or Edit Copy. And then the blank line below that, I'm just going to go ahead and paste that in. Do that again, and one more time. So I pasted that same item in 4 times. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is highlight this right here, the quotation marks and everything inside of it, type a single quotation mark, and that brings up Browse. Hit Enter, brings me back to the folder that I was in. I'll click RSS, and it puts that in there. Highlight that, including the quotation marks, type a quote, hit enter for browse, and there's Twitter. One more time, highlight, quote, hit browse, scroll down, there's the YouTube icon, and click OK. And I now have my 4 social media icons in an unordered list. And when I go into Design View, you'll see those are listed down here. Now, at this point, you're probably thinking to yourself, wait a minute, this doesn't look anything like our sample website. You know, this is all the way in the upper left-hand corner. These are below it. They've got dots after them because they're in a list. What the heck is going on? Why doesn't it look like this? Whenever you're creating a website that you want to be search engine friendly, you need to divide your formatting from your content. Your HTML is going to contain your content and your structure. Your CSS files are going to hold all the formatting and all of the positioning for elements. So when it comes to formatting this text here or positioning these images, that's all going to be done with CSS. Your HTML should just be the content and the structure for your page. Otherwise, search engines are going to have a problem with interpreting what's what on your page. That's the biggest problem that people have with search engine optimization a lot of times, is the fact that things are laid out with tables and are formatted really weird in the HTML. Don't get caught in that trap. Go ahead and lay out your HTML and then later do your CSS. If that doesn't make a lot of sense to you right now, don't worry about it. Just follow along through these videos, and by the time you get to the CSS video, everything will make perfect sense. Okay, so again, I'm going to go ahead and minimize that, and I'm back here in my page. Now, the next div is going to hold our top nav. And I'll bring up that website again here. We need a link to the home page, to the about page, the products page, the services page, and the contact page. Now, we're actually going to create the links a little bit later on. We're just going to go ahead and create an unordered list in this area here. So I'm going to go ahead and again do an opening UL tag. And see how I'm nicely spacing everything out so it's very readable? You want to definitely get into the habit of doing that. It'll make your life a lot easier. And then we have an LI tag, which I'm going to go ahead and do home. And then I'm going to close that list item. Do another LI. And then about. And actually, I capitalized all that, so I'm going to go ahead and capitalize it in the example here. And you could be copying and pasting these if you don't want to type the links all these times. And 2 more. And remember, where you've got an opening tag, you're going to need a closing tag as well. And then finally we have the contact page. And then I'm going to go ahead and close that off. And when I go into Design View, there I have my different links here. Now, another very valuable thing that Design View does is it's going to show you anytime you've got some errors in your coding. Notice here that I've got div and div, and they're sort of highlighted in yellow there. That means that there's a problem with my tags. So if I come back in here to Code View and look, you can sort of see what the problem is. I've got an opening UL tag, but no closing UL tag. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter there and do a closing UL tag. So if you ever start seeing tags appear, they're gone right now, tags appear, especially div tags, in Design View for your page, chances are you've opened a tag and you have not closed it properly. And the same thing would happen if I hadn't closed one of these LI tags. Something would appear off. So always check your opening and closing tags. So now I'm going to go ahead and save this, and we come down to our banner section. And again, when we look at our finished site, the banner is this image. Now, this image has this effect here where it fades in and out and has this sliding drop-down semi-transparent box with some text inside of it. We're not going to do that effect right now. We are going to do it later, but for right now, we just want a fairly simple page. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and put in, whoops, where's an example of it? Actually, I don't have a static one here. We're just going to go ahead and put a static image in on this page. So I'm going to go ahead and close that out there. And inside of banner, I'm going to go ahead and do img, my image tag, sr, and when source is highlighted, I can hit, or src is highlighted, I can hit enter. It finishes that attribute and brings me up a browse option. I'll hit enter one more time, and it brings me into the select file dialog box. Now, it's always going to bring you back into the last file or the last folder that you selected an image out of, which in our case was the icons folder. So I'm going to go ahead and jump back up into my images folder. There's a couple different ways you could do that. You can use the drop down here, or you can just click this little button here, up one level, to go up one level. And I actually saved that banner image in my banners folder. You're going to go, if you didn't download the exercise files, you're going to go wherever you saved that banner inside of the images folder. And you're going to find it. In my case, I called this one B1, or banner image 1. And I'm going to go ahead and click OK there. And then I'm going to go ahead and do a closing slash and a closing bracket. We'll save that, and now when we come into design view, you can see that image appears on the page. Again, there's no formatting here, there's just pure content. All the formatting is going to be done with CSS. Now our next step here is going to be, whoops, I lost my page, hang on. There I go, I had to bring this page up again. After our banner here, we've got two areas. We've got this content area here that's going to have a heading, a couple paragraphs of text with a couple of images in between. And then we have our right-hand sidebar area here. So heading, paragraph, two images, the two small images, and another paragraph of text. And to make this easy, I'm just going to go ahead and copy this text from the sample page. And again, this is just filler text. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize that. And here I am back in my design. Come back into code view, and there's my content section. Now again, the very first thing in this content area was not this paragraph of text that we copied. It was welcome to Shear's design, that heading. And headings always go inside of H tags. And then they have the number that indicates what level of heading. Well, this is a main heading, so it's going to be an H1 tag, or a first level heading. And then I'm going to go ahead and type welcome to Shear's design website. And again, where I open a tag, I have to close a tag. So there's my closing H1 tag. And then we had a paragraph of text, which you'll remember goes into a P tag. And I copied that text, so I'm just going to go ahead and paste it in there. And it's a long line of text. You can see that there. We don't need to put line breaks in. The browser will do that automatically for us. But what we do need to do is we do need to put a closing P tag at the end of that paragraph. Now, there's an option for controlling the way long lines of text appear. If you come over here to your toolbar in your code view, you're going to see one of the options is this one right here. It's got the two sort of sets of lines with the arrow on it. When you hover over it, it says, whoops, when you hover over it, it says word wrap. If I click that, you'll see how the paragraph of text wraps around. So I no longer have to wonder what's over here off the screen. Now, that can be a little bit distracting because you can see everything comes all the way over here, and it's also going to mean you're going to be seeing less lines of text. So I usually turn that word wrapping off by clicking that right there, and that way I can see more. But this is entirely a personal preference, and you can go back and forth as much as you want. So coming back in here to our sample website, there's our paragraph of text. Then we have a couple of images here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on them. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter there to create a blank line underneath that paragraph. And I'm going to put an image in. So img space the source attribute, which I can just hit enter on, brings up the browse option, hit enter again, and you now go find those images. If you created your own images, you're just going to have to go find wherever you save those images. If you downloaded the exercise files, they're not in the banner folder. I'm going to go up one level into the images folder and scroll down, and I actually called these small 5 BW and small 6 BW. You can see there's small 5 BW, there's small 5, and you can see the two images that are going to form that rollover in just a little bit. And then there's small 6 BW, or black and white, and small 6. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this first small image, right, or this second small image, the black and white one right there, and click OK. And that's going to place that image into our page. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and hit enter to go onto a different line, and I'm going to do img src, hit enter. That puts my equals and my quotation mark in and brings up the browse box. Hit enter again to go to browse and scroll down, and I've got to find small 6 BW. There we go, right there. And then again a space, the slash, and the closing bracket. So now I've got two images. And finally, what I'm going to need is another paragraph here at the bottom. Since this is just filler text, all I'm going to go ahead and do is copy this P tag right here by highlighting the line, right-clicking on it and copying it, making a blank line in between the last image and the closing div tag, and I'm going to go ahead and paste that in there. Whoops, got some extra space there that I'll have to delete, and an extra line right there. We'll delete that. Save your file, and we go into design view. You can see there's the heading, there's the first paragraph, two images, the second paragraph, and there's no footer yet, but we'll go ahead and do that next. And when I come into code view, you can see here, actually we're not going to do it next. Next we need to do this right side area right here. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And let's go ahead and take a look at what our right side has. Up at the very top we have a heading called Latest News. And then below that we have 3 news items. Now, this is an H1 tag, which means it's a first level heading. And that's important for search engines. This is actually a second level heading right here, because that's the second most important set of information on my page. The third level headings are going to be the new individual newsline headings here. So I'm going to have an H2 here, followed by a date, whoops, followed by an H3, followed by a small paragraph of text. And to make this easy, I'm going to go ahead and copy this right here so we can paste that in easier later. Now I'm going to go ahead and click in the right side div, and remember I had a second level heading, and what level you make your headings is entirely dependent upon what you want search engines to see. So I'm going to go ahead and do H2, and again we go more into what the different headings are and how to use them for search engines when we do the SEO videos. And if you're interested in that, you can go ahead and go to my site and download those videos. So now I'm going to go ahead and type latest news right here and close my H2. Then after that, remember we had a date, a headline, and some text. So the date is actually just going to be a paragraph of text. And I'm going to go ahead and type March 22nd, 2011 and close my paragraph. Then I'm going to go ahead and put the heading in for that news item, which is going to be a third level heading. And so I'm going to go ahead and say sample headline. And again, close that H3. And then we have the paragraph of text underneath it. I copied that text so I can just paste it in and close my P tag. Remember to close your P tag. And then we can go ahead and hit enter and come down here to the bottom. So when I save this and go into design view, you can see there's our latest news. And again, there's no formatting here because we're going to do that all with CSS. And just to speed things up and make things a little bit quicker, since this is just filler text, I'm going to highlight these 3 lines. Not latest news, just the date, the H3, and then the paragraph below it. And I'm going to go ahead and highlight that line and paste that in there. And you'll see the way that worked there. Mistake there. Highlight it, right click and copy, or go to edit copy, and then go ahead and click on line 73 and paste. And I'm going to paste that a second time here and just change the date. And we'll do March 18th right here. Maybe change a little bit in here, another headline, final headline. That's just to differentiate it out a little bit. We'll take that blank line out of there, save it, and now you have these 3 headlines for our right side section. So far our website is looking really, really good. Come into the code section, and the final thing we have is this footer area. So I'm going to go ahead and type a P tag, not an O tag there. And I'm going to go ahead and type copyright 2011 Shears Design Studio. And you could put whatever information you want into your footer. Some people put some navigation links there. I'm just making this a real simple footer. Save it and go into design view, and there is my footer line. So when you've successfully created the HTML file, you're going to look something almost exactly like this, regardless of what website it is. Your HTML should only hold the structure and the content. It should contain absolutely no formatting at all. That way your search engines, they only see this. Search engines just look at HTML pages. They don't look at CSS. So this is going to be very linear and very orderly. A search engine is going to know exactly what the content is of your website, and that's very, very important. So we've gone ahead here and we've created the basic HTML for our page. In the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to have an overview, a very basic overview of CSS. And again, you use CSS for formatting your information as well as positioning your information. So we'll have a brief overview of CSS, and then we're going to go ahead in the next video, we're going to apply what we learned about CSS to our page here. And that's the point where you actually get the design that we're looking at right here. After we've done that, we're going to go ahead and do the background here, set all this up. After you've done that, we can begin adding these special effects, like these colored hovers on our menu item, our fading banner with the sliding boxes, and our image rollovers right here. So we're going to learn CSS, apply it to the page so the page looks like this, And then we're going to go ahead and add our special effects, our JavaScript, to this page. And so don't think that when you have this here that you're way off track. This is exactly where you want to be. And I'll see you in the next video.